But as, well, as you know, the rate of GST is going to go up from the 1st of October, but it's not just a simple increase in the rate itself. But obviously there will be transitional issues. People will have obviously have to change their systems. They will obviously have to try to account for transactions that are in the pipeline. So many of these issues were thought about back in when the GST rate was last increased back in '89. So that the GST legislation already has transitional provisions in it. And also IRD will be providing more information as the months go on, particularly in relation to return filing changes over the transitional period. And as Carolyn said, there's also been the establishment of the GST advisory panel. So if people do have some particular concerns as to how about the way the transition is going, how it affects them, then we're certainly most interested in hearing your views on those issues. And the panel will have a website, an 0800 number, and equally the IRD will also be open to hearing people's views on issues of a more technical nature. As I say, there are transitional provisions in the GST Act as it currently stands, and we've made some very minor changes to those in the tax bill, which was just passed by Parliament on Friday and is now just waiting royal assent. But the key features of that are, in terms of return filing, if you've got a return period that goes over the 1st of October, then that may be, say, a 2-month period or maybe a 6-month period, then you will need to do a split return for the period up to the 1st of October and the period post-October, and then are brought together as one return that is split into 2 parts to cover the transactions on either side of that date. Also, the transitional provisions include the ability to increase contract prices in certain circumstances. So that's something that's worthwhile being aware of that and checking out those circumstances, whether they're relevant in any particular case. And we're not altering the general or standard time of supply rules. So if, for example, there are progressive contracts, sort of progressive supplies, then those standard rules will apply. And for those who are paying or pay their GST or returning their GST on a payments basis, obviously payments after the 1st of October will be subject to the higher rate. But if the transaction itself took place, there was a supply before the 1st of October, but it's subsequently was actually returned in a period after the 1st of October, then there's an adjustment, or the taxpayer will receive an adjustment for the difference between debtors and creditors. So those things are sort of set out in the GST legislation, and it's basically section 78. So those are sort of things that are useful to be aware of, that there are those transitional provisions. So just say, and if people do have some concerns about particular issues, then say the panel is most interested in seeing and hearing people's concerns, and equally IRD will be providing information over the coming months. And we will be sort of providing some information probably as soon as the bill receives royal assent. There will be stuff on that website as well, which provides some examples of some issues.
So that was basically all we were going to cover in our presentation, but we were interested if anyone had any questions at this point to see whether we were able to answer them, or we can always take them back and email in response if it's something we can't answer from the floor.
Timing is a great one. If your customer is a GST registered entity, whether he's charged GST on a job of 12 hours or 15% doesn't really matter. He's taken back what he's paid.
Yeah.
If your customer is a Joe Blogs,
individual.
yeah, you're working on someone's boat.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a difference to him whether he's charged GST at 12.5 or 15.
Yeah.
If you've got a repair workshop,
Mm-hmm.
and you're partway through a job, the job will start in September and finish in October.
Yeah.
What rate is the GST on that job? When does the supply occur? And does it make a difference whether he's paid some of the money before September or not?
Yeah.
presuming you're on an accrual basis, not on a payments basis.
Yeah.
But I have an understanding somewhere that the time of payment has some effect on the theoretical or assumed time of
Yeah.
supply. How does all that work?
Well, you're right. I mean, there are already provisions in the GST Act. I think it's Section 9, which talks about progressive payments. And I think it's the earlier of when the payment is received or the invoice is issued. So I would, I mean, the best thing is to look at Section 9 on that.
Are there examples in the special report that was put out?
Not in the special report, but they may be on, I think, on the IRD website.
Okay.
Of, for example, a builder providing,
Yeah.
or somebody paying a builder on
Yeah.
a progressive basis.
So we can coerce the customer into sort of paying in September for the jobs that were in October, so you get the lower depreciation rate, lower GST rate, and that'll help our cash flow. So it both ways, won't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's a $6,000 job, and we say, okay, it was $4,000 up
Yeah,
front.
I mean,
That's the basis
of the
of the
yeah, that's right, yeah.
And you finish the job in
Yeah.
October, then it's quite valid to invoice that at 12.5% GST.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
the payment basis
Yeah,
that you
that's
do.
right, yeah.
We'll go back and check the commentary that's going to come out on the ID website once the bill has got all of it and just make sure they have an example like that.
Okay. And if there is no payment in September, but the job was done half September, half October,
Yeah.
what's the situation? What GST rate should it be at?
Presumably the invoice will come out after.
It'll come out when the
Well,
job
yeah,
finishes in October.
it'd be in October, because you would get the higher rate.
Yeah.
So therefore we have to bill whatever you've done in September as of 30th September, 12.5%, and open a new job in October to finish the job off.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, certainly that would
Is that valid or not?
be at the lower rate, yeah, if it things, if it falls, if it technically meets the time of the supply before the 1st of October, then it will be at the lower rate.
But you could argue that it's one supply, you've rebuilt this man's
well, I
engine,
mean,
okay?
yeah.
Can that rebuild engine be cut into two supplies, one in September, one in October or not?
I think that depends if you've got a progressive arrangement in terms
Yeah.
of the payment. So if that's the kind of arrangement you've set up, that you, even though the job goes on for a long period, you're going to have payments progressively over.
Well, generally not, generally they pay at the end.
Yeah. In that case, it will be a arrangement.
Okay,
Well, it
so,
depends, I mean, if you, I mean, the best thing is to seek some advice from your accountant on that issue.
well, I'm coming here to get it from you, you see. So the trick is then to give them the customer the benefit is to get an advance payment.
Well, I think if you've got that progressive type arrangement,
And if we
then it
get-
allows you to break it into the different
If he
periods.
pays some of the money in September, that makes it pretty conclusive that the whole
Yeah.
job will be at the lower GST rate.
If that's the agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but we'll go back and make sure the guidance that's coming out on the website.
I mean, there are anti-avoidance rules for if you are deliberately structuring things differently than you would do normally.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we recognise that this is a transitional period, so
Yeah.
there needs to be some flexibility.
But sometimes you do 99% of the job in September, 1% in October. It's pretty
Yeah,
hard
well,
to have
that's
the whole
right,
job
yeah,
in
that's
15,
right.
wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So if they make a substantial payment towards it in September, is the whole job 12.5%?
No, it's on the progressive
Yeah,
payment. So you
yeah,
look at
progressive.
payment before
So
and
you-
payment
so
after.
you do progressive invoicing.
Invoice
Yeah,
the whole job in
that's right.
September
Yeah.
and only receive half of the payment in September.
So invoices,
Are you on
whole job
invoice or
afterwards.
cash, basically?
No, you invoice the whole job in September.
You invoice the whole job in September.
Are you on accruals or cash basis?
Rules basis.
And that's all that the...
Well, you still make an invoice. There's still an invoice.
What if you've got a job that's not just over a couple of weeks, but over a year or more? And you're entered into a contract for a fixed price,
Right.
and part of the job, or 6 months, but half of the job falls after the 1st of October. Can you invoice out the rest of the job?
Well, I
in
mean,
September?
then you need to look at the contract, the provisions which allow potentially for the contract prices to be
Our
increased.
customers are going to come to us and say, I don't want to pay an extra 2.5% on this $2 million boat.
Right, but